Welcome back to the Frank Coding channel, and today we're going to dive into a very interesting question. People often ask me where to start and how to start their programming career and what language to choose, and in particular they are very curious about JavaScript. Is JavaScript one of the best languages to start your career as a programmer, as a software engineer? So let's basically look at this in this video and answer this question. Let's crack on. So first of all, let's answer one simple question. Why JavaScript is so attractive? And the answer is very simple, because it's cross-platform language and you can build mobile apps, desktop apps, complex web UI applications. You can even build computer games with JavaScript because some of the biggest engines for computer gaming development are supporting JavaScript, and you can build AAA computer games. Surprise! And JavaScript is very easy to learn, at least its fundamentals, because JavaScript was initially designed as a scripting language for web. Even though JavaScript seems to be a perfect language on the first glance, there are caveats, and often on the internet you will find loads of jokes about JavaScript not being a proper programming language, etc, etc. Some of that stuff is true, but majority of these jokes obviously are false, though there are definitely pros and cons to this language. But show me one language where there is no pros and cons. So the first caveat is price for all that cross-platform support and its performance, because JavaScript is not supported natively by mobile or desktop platforms. So the same application written in Java or Swift, which are programming languages for mobile development or desktop, will be a little bit more performant. But saying that, today's hardware is so powerful that JavaScript applications are not actually far away from native applications in terms of performance, especially with the modern frameworks like React Native, which are supporting a lot of native features that you can utilize, and it actually, in terms of performance, is very similar to native application. Secondly, even though you have support of all these frameworks which are helping you to develop mobile applications or desktop applications, you will find out very quickly that there are some modules which are missing. And that basically means that you will have to write them yourself in a native language like Swift or Java. So you will end up most likely with the multiple code bases for the same application, which we will have to support because you are using different languages. And now we are landing to the main ground, why people love and hate JavaScript. The reason for that is because JavaScript is very different to any other programming language out there. The list of these differences is very long, but let's cover the major parts. There is no strict types in JavaScript, so that kind of makes your code a little bit more exposed to the bugs. It still doesn't have any matured OOP support. Though, saying all that, you can learn TypeScript, for example, which is JavaScript on steroids, and it does support strict types, OOP, and other fancy stuff. Okay, all these things are great, but if you are a complete beginner, they may sound very confusing. You may wonder why they all matter at all. We need to answer a very simple question. What exactly do you want to code? Is it just your interest in programming? You want to learn some coding and principles? Is it something you want to build for mobile devices, desktop application, or you want to build a website or like a complex web application? So you will have to understand what exactly you want to do. For example, if you choose web development, then there are two ways you can go. It's backend and front-end development. You can also write backend in JavaScript, but primarily backend is written in other languages like Java, C, PHP, C#, and many others. But if you go for front end, you will basically be forced to use JavaScript anyway. There is also one very important thing that you will need to keep in mind. As I mentioned earlier, JavaScript is a very easy language to learn, but it's also much easier to pick up bad practices and habits with JavaScript. So if you go with the JavaScript as your main language, you will have to set up two main things for yourself, for your learning path. First is mentor. You have to find someone who will definitely be good at JavaScript and will teach you right way of writing code in JavaScript. Second thing is discipline. You have to be very disciplined in order to learn new stuff and do follow all the best practices that you can find out there and what your mentor will teach you. Otherwise, you are risking to fall into a trap to become a very bad developer. On the other hand, if you choose any other programming language, like for example C# or C or Java, they will force you to become a little bit more professional engineer from the very beginning, even without a mentor. Because these languages will force you to learn things like best practices, architecture, and design patterns, where JavaScript is much easier on these things and it's not dictating you anything like that, which is good and bad at the same time. It might be bad because if you're a complete newbie, you will learn these bad practices and you will make all the mistakes you can make, and you will learn them and you will solidify them, and they will become your way of programming. It also can be very good because as a complete newbie, you don't want to be diving into complexity of bigger languages and how to set them up. With JavaScript, you can start developing very quickly. You just need your machine and you can start learning these simple concepts of programming very quickly. So, is JavaScript a good language to start programming career? As you can see, it depends on many factors. But the simple answer is yes, it is. Because many people who are considering to start coding today are not even familiar with code editors or anything like that. So they don't really know anything about frameworks, platforms, etc, etc. So they will be completely overwhelmed with stuff if they will dive into a big mature languages. As a starting point, JavaScript is definitely a good choice because it's a simple language. It's very simple to set it up and start coding. You can kickstart development environment on pretty much any device. You don't have to rely on any specific operating systems. Like for example, if you want to develop something for iOS, you will have to use Swift, which is a native language, and you will have to do this on Mac operating system. By the way, I have another video on my channel about how to set up VS Code, which is IDE primarily used to code in JavaScript. In that video, I'm explaining how to do it on iPad, but you can do it basically on pretty much any mobile device. But if you wish to use any regular device like Mac or PC, you can just install the application. So as I said before, you have to be very conscious and very disciplined and find your mentor in order to not fall into this rabbit hole of bad practices and become a bad engineer. So if you are ready to dive into JavaScript, there are plenty of courses and tutorials on the web. I suggest you to find some good courses or tutorials on platforms like Udemy, Pluralsight, Front-End Masters, and others. Ideally find one or more mentors. It can be one of your friends who is already in the industry, or it can be someone on YouTube, maybe multiple people who you trust and you think they are a good teacher. I have also a couple of videos on my channel where I explain how to kickstart your programming career or fundamentals of JavaScript. So if you are curious, go and check them out on my channel. That's it, folks. I really hope this video helped you to answer this question, or at least get you closer to the answer. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe, like the video. If you have any questions, put them down below into the comment section, and see you in the next one.